Hello and welcome back to our series of Learning to Code with B5JS. Today in this video, we will be learning how to move our objects around, or the shapes that we have been creating and playing with in the last few weeks. And in order to do that, we are going to utilize our learning from the previous two lessons, which are variables and conditionals. So if you haven't check them out before you start with this one. And let's get started and see how we can control the movement of our objects. All right, so before we begin, let's do something that we have done before. We are going to create, of course, a shape so that, we can move it around. Let us create a circle at the center of our canvas, and let's give it some color. 250. And now we have sort of a sunny / egg yolk yellow color. Okay, so we have our circle that we have created at the edge of our canvas on the left side, right? So where the position of X is 0, and it's exactly at the center in terms of the height of the canvas. Right now it's static. All right, we know how to sort of move it around because we have tried and learned that in our variable class. So if we create a variable, remember, if we create a variable, we've called it X, and right now this is a global variable, right? It's outside all of the code that we are writing below. And we can actually, instead of using 0 here, we can use this variable X. And why do we do that is because variables are basically containers that hold certain kind of data or values that we assign. And it's helpful because we can change it over a period of time. So if we wanted to move, and I'm going to just get some more space here. So let's just actually see it moving. So if I say X is X plus 1, we can literally, we don't have to do 1 only, because 1 is what it is saying is that it's going to add 1 pixel at a time. If we make it 10, it's going to be just super fast, right? Boom, and it's out of the screen. We can make it 5, and it's going to be relatively slower, but it's moving still at a fast pace. But what's happening here is that if you notice, if I'm increasing the canvas, you can see it's still moving. And even though, because we haven't stopped the program, technically it is still moving. It's just that it's not visible to us. And a good way to actually check this out is if we go to our console, there is very interesting function that would be helpful for you. It is called print. And if I put the value, not the value, but if I put the variable inside that function, it can give us the value. And we can see that in our console. So I'm going to comment it out. So now, right now, it's in front of us and it's gone now. But here the value is still changing. That means that it is still increasing and it is still moving in the X, on the X-axis, right? So it is still moving in the right direction and the value is being continuously added. So if there is something which you feel that you want to know the value of, you can use this function. Just something for you to know that if there is nothing written inside this print function, I would suggest to comment it out first, because a lot of times what happens is that it takes the print as like a printing command, and your window might actually go and start showing you a command P sort of an option, right? So in order to avoid that, it's a better idea to comment it out first and then put whatever value you want to see, and then you can uncomment it again. Otherwise, you'll be in that loop of printing out your window. Okay, so that's one thing. But now, okay, so now that we have established that even if we can't see it, our circle is still continuously being moved on the X-axis, right? What if we want this circle to move all the way to the right edge of our canvas, right? actually till whatever the width of the canvas is, but then we want it to move back. And how can we do it? Is that, again, this is a concept that we're going to go back to our variables. Remember, right now we have given this a hard number, right? You have to move 5 pixels at a time, but we want it to move back. And a good idea for this one is to actually convert this hard number into a variable so that over a period of time, we can keep changing and reassigning different values to it. So let's come back here and create a variable called move. Like literally, you can name it anything. And I'm going to, you can make it 1, 3, 5, whatever, because that's just going to be moving our number of pixels, because I'm replacing this value here with a variable instead of a single number. So it is doing the same function. This X is actually moving 5 pixels at a time. Okay, so what this gives is, it gives us a bit more control in terms of assigning and reassigning different values. Now, think about it. When I say, and now I'm thinking out loud, right, with you guys. So what I'm saying is that if my circle actually touches the right edge of the screen, which is basically the width of the canvas, I want it to move back, right? So even when I'm saying it out loud, I am putting a condition out there, right? And we've learned some conditions, and we can kind of, try and see how that works, right? So we know the syntax of the condition. So we are saying that if something happens, or if whatever condition we're going to put, if that is going to be met, you are going to move this back. So how are we going to do it is, we are saying if X becomes greater than the width, or we can say greater than or equals to the width of the canvas, right? That's what we are saying. You are going to change the value of this variable called move. So what we are saying is we can assign it move becomes -5. All right, so let's see what happens. Now, did you just see that it kind of hit on the right edge of the screen and it has moved back, bounced back, right? So technically, this condition is met. It changed the direction, but we want the same thing to happen on the left edge of the screen as well, right? So what we wanted to say is that, okay, if it touches the right edge of the screen, bounce back. If it touches left edge of the screen, bounce back again. So what we can do here is basically introduce another condition. Remember, and I've spelled it wrong. It won't do any good to us if we spell it wrong. Okay, so now we're going to put another condition inside this parentheses, and if that is going to be met as well, it will do something for us. So let's say if I say if X becomes lesser than 0, right, which is going to be the left edge of the screen, what you're going to do is you are going to change the value of move to what? To 5. All right, so let's see. So it has hit the right edge of the screen and then the left edge of the screen. So technically it is working exactly the way we wanted, right? We wanted it to be confined within the edges of the canvas on the right and the left side, and make it and keep it going in the horizontal direction. So now if you look at our code, how can we sort of make it a bit more optimized? Or, because what we are technically doing is I'm writing here. Okay, let me show you. So for instance, if I change the value of the variable here on line 2 and make it 2, so this has started and it is kind of working with this condition on line 21. And now the minute it actually hit the right edge of the screen, because this condition is met on line 23, it actually bounced back with the -5 value, right? And then it kept going between -5 and 5 and -5 and 5. And now it's in a loop of actually going in between those as well. So what happened is that it started off with moving with 2 pixels at a time, and then it became a bit more speedy just because we haven't changed those hard numbers. And if I change some kind of value here, that means that I'll have to change the value here too, just to make sure if this is the kind of same consistent speed that I want. So this is not a very efficient way of doing things. Why? Because the whole idea of using variables is that it can change value over time, and then we don't have to keep on, putting in hard numbers for that. So what we can do here is, instead of, putting in values here, let's say if I'm keeping it going back again at 5, now in this case, it's going to become slower. What I can say is, okay, the variable move is going to bounce back with that speed. And now if you see, after this condition being met, it is again now moving at 2. So I can kind of say, okay, you're going to again do a minus move. So what I'm doing, all I'm saying is that this is a variable move which has been assigned a value here of 5, let's say, because it's moving with, with a speed of like 5 pixels at a time. So if the x position becomes equals to or greater than or equals to the width of the canvas, you are going to reverse it, right? So the move value becomes, whatever the move value is, it's going to become negative. Else, if it is going to hit on the left edge of the screen, again, whatever the value at that point of move is, of that variable is, you're going to make it minus. So technically right now, what it is doing is these two conditions on line 24 and line 26 feel the same way. But remember, variable stores value over a period of time, right? Like the values can keep getting reassigned. So after this condition being met, the value of move is already negative. So when we have assigned it another negative value, if you know from your high school or secondary school math, is that negative and negative make it positive. So that's what it is doing, right? Negative, negative equals positive. Not the optimal way of writing things, but that's what it is doing, okay? All right, so this is what it is doing. And now if we look at it, we have similar line of code that we want to be executed, right? So how can we put these two conditions together? Remember from our conditional lesson, there is another operator, which is basically for or. I have to comment it out first. Or and for and, right? If we want to use them. So these are logical operators that we can use for our multi-part questions. So imagine what we are saying is, if it touches the right edge of the screen or it touches the left edge of the screen. So now if I've said it out loud, you can see, and we know that which one we will be using. So we are going to say, if this happens or the other thing happens, which is put in right here, I'm going to just cut and paste it here. You are going to execute this thing. So I don't need to actually do this move minus move thing again and again. Okay. And I'm going to delete this. So now what it is happening is it keeps on toggling between values, just because, remember, the value of variable changes over a period of time. So what it is doing is, if it is greater than or equal to the width, which is on the right side of the canvas, or it is on the left side of the canvas, it is going to be changing the value between minus and positive, whatever is written. So now we don't have to write it multiple times. Let's say if I make it 10 here, it's going to keep the speed consistent of the movement, and it's going to keep on following the conditions that we have mentioned. All right, so now you can start thinking around how we are at this point in time making it move horizontally. Maybe the next step that you can think about is how you can kind of control the circle to move vertically up and down, right? If you want to confine it between the top and the bottom of the canvas, that's one thing that you can think about. Another thing that I would like you to try is that if you notice that right now, the center point is where the X and Y position of this circle is, right? So what if we want it to only touch if we want the circle to only touch the edge of its circle to the edge of the screen and then bounce back. And the same way for the left side as well. So think about it, how this can be done. Think about not just this conditional, but also think about the size of the circle as well. How can we kind of play around with these two things to, let it only touch from one edge to the other of the circle and of the canvas. So I'll let you try and figure this out in practice, and we're going to meet in our next lesson. See you.